I read this handout with growing concern. I was terribly afraid of rats, having seen hundreds of them growing up. Our house was a standard brick bungalow, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, living room, dining room, and kitchen, one of thousands that stretched for miles across Chicago. The fronts of the bungalows faced the city streets, and the backs faced the alleys. Behind the back of the house was a tiny patch of grass, the backyard, and then a garage which touched the alley. Next to the garage was a concrete trash receptacle into which you put the garbage. On the alley side of this receptacle was a metal door, which hung down over an opening. When the garbage truck came down the alley, the garbage man lifted the hanging metal door, shoveled out the garbage, and put it in the back of the truck. There were no plastic garbage bags in those days. Naturally, the metal tops for the receptacles and the metal doors that hung down were not always in place, or they were missing, so these concrete garbage receptacles were the perfect place for rats. We kids would hear story after story of garbage men and others being bitten by rats. The adults told us to notice that all the garbage men had their pants legs tied tight to the ankles. This kept the rats from running up inside their pants and biting them. When I was little and would get sick, I got to stay in my parents' bed during the day while I recovered. From their bed, you could see out the window toward the alley. Often I would see rats playing on our side of the garbage receptacle, just out of sight of the people who walked up and down the alley. The alleys were used as much as the streets for coming and going. This gave me the creeps when I realized that when I walked down the alley, I, too, was within just a few feet of playing rats. So I made sure to make a lot of noise walking down the alley, whistling, talking, or hitting a baseball bat on the concrete. Bouncing a basketball was also good. I didn't want to surprise a rat into thinking he was cornered. But now I was in Vietnam, learning that cornering doesn't mean much to these rodents. They'd bite you out of meanness. I asked the other guys in the tent about the rat problem, but they didn't seem concerned. They admitted there were a lot of rats around, especially at night, but nobody in our tent had been bitten. They also said to tuck in my mosquito net because that was what it was for, not mosquitoes. They said that when everybody was back at base camp, you didn't see nearly as many rats as when the unit was in the field. The guys at headquarters who stayed behind said that was when the rats took over. So of the 8 of us who lived in the tent, I was the only one with rat phobia. And of course, I was the only one who was bitten. It was a few nights before Christmas. Our unit was back in Ankei because of the Christmas truce. The nice folks back home had sent their loved ones cookies, candies, cakes, pies, and other treats for our holiday enjoyment. The army sprang for free beer and booze, all we wanted. On this particular night, our tent was littered with sweets of every description, and I was polluted with booze, of the vodka description, and when I tumbled onto my cot to go to sleep, I forgot to tuck in my mosquito netting. I was awaked in the night by a sharp pain at the tip of my ring finger, left hand. "Damn!" I remember saying to myself. "A rat is chewing on me." I slung my hand out and thought I heard a rat drop to the floor. I rolled over and went back to sleep. In the morning, when I awoke, I immediately remembered the incident and started hoping it had been a bad dream. Please make it a dream, I thought. Make that prayed as I lifted my arm. It was not a dream. Dried blood covered my hand and part of my forearm. I couldn't believe it. The place was strewn with open cans and boxes of every kind of sweet food you could name, and a rat decided to chew on me instead. That's a mean rat. I vacillated for perhaps half an hour before deciding to turn myself in as a rat bite victim. We all knew the medical procedure for rabies prevention: 16 extremely painful shots in the stomach. But we also knew that to die of rabies was about as bad as dying got. When my head was fully cleared, how much vodka did I drink? I walked over to the medic's tent and told our flight surgeon what happened. He examined my finger and said, "Yep, that's a rat bite." He said the skin would grow back over it, however.